Hello, and thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my trusty sidekick, my partner in crime. Really, the best way to describe this person is my everything. It's at Eric Dalala.
Phil, great to be with you. Happy to join you here on Victory Monday. It was rescheduled for today, and it happened.
It did happen. You're not joining me though on the Neutral Zone. This is your home. It's not like you're joining me here. We're just we're in the same space, you know.
So your name's first for a reason.
How are you feeling on this Victory Monday? You know, you feeling pretty pumped up. We haven't had one in a little bit here, so feel re-energized.
Yeah, I know you're feeling probably a little sad, maybe beaten down. That your fiery takes about Drew Lock have been proven wrong for at least a week.
Oh my gosh. I'm on stand for this.
I know you're just as excited, but yeah, I mean, hey, that's the Drew Lock you want to see. It's a Drew Lock you hope you continue to get. I know we'll talk about that, but Phil, regardless of the win or not, that was encouraging. Gives me hope.
Yes, it does. It may be snowing and cold outside, but inside it's warm, energetic, bright, happy, you know, all those things that come along with a Victory Monday, including a great show here for NZ Nation. We're going to get into Drew Lock. Did he do enough yesterday? 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Did he do enough to silence all of the critics, all of the doubters, including Eric Dalala? Did he do enough to make it so that we don't have to ask the question, who's the quarterback of the future around here? Did he quiet all of that by one performance yesterday? We'll get into that. We'll talk a little bit about Pat Shurmur. One of the things that Broncos country likes to do is blast Shurmur. They like to say, hey, why isn't Philip Lindsay getting the ball more? Why isn't this happening? Well, guess what? He called probably his best game of the season yesterday. Short passes, long passes, good runs, a mix of different things, some screenplays. We'll hear what Vic Fangio had to say about the job his offensive coordinator did. And then, of course, Eric, we'll get into the voicemails, the emails. Let's just say Jeff Flanagan was a little fired up.
I believe it. I haven't heard these, Phil, so I'll be listening for the first time with NZ Nation. Excited to get to those.
Yes. If you would like to be a part of the show, please call and leave a voicemail at 707-NEUTRAL. That is the best way for you to get onto the show. Leave a voicemail, get fired up, and we'll play it right here on the show. Eric, as we like to say, you could also leave an email.
That's right, Phil. neutralzoneshow@gmail.com. Leave your thoughts. We'll read them.
We'll read your thoughts. You can also hit us up on Twitter at Eric Dalala with an A, at Phil Milani with a PH. Some very unusual spellings.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
It does not. But Eric, with that, let's get into our first topic here on this Monday, and that is the play of Drew Lock. What did you think about how the Q went out there and handled business against the Panthers?
Yeah, almost perfectly, Phil. You know, I think anytime you're third in franchise history in quarterback rating behind just John Elway and Peyton Manning for a single game, that means you did something right.
How is that possible? I was looking at the quarterback ratings. Lock's performance yesterday gave him a better quarterback rating than when Peyton Manning threw 7 touchdowns. I think it has to do with efficiency. I don't know how.
Well, yes,
I don't know
it
how
does.
that.
It has. Peyton must have thrown more incompletions in that game.
Yeah, but 7 touchdowns.
Yes, obviously not the only indicator, but one indicator. You know, I think Drew said it best after the game, Phil, that the hardest thing for him to learn has been when to take those check downs, those short throws, when to get the ball out quickly, because he wants to take deep shots down the field. And what we saw on Sunday is that when he does take those check downs, that opens up things down the field. And then those big plays that he wants to make, that we know he can make, they become more readily available. Just thought the balance, the decision-making was good. Of course, not perfect. You know, he got blasted by Jeremy Chin and gives up a long fumble return that not his fault that he got hit there. You'd love to see him throw it away or hold onto the ball somehow. Hard to fault him too much there. And then he did get lucky at the end, Phil. He threw a pass that hit Lloyd Cushenberry's helmet in his own end zone. Held my breath there for a second, but largely a good performance, one you can build on. And I think encouraging in that if he doesn't have to throw 4 touchdowns and no interceptions each week, but to know that he can do that is a big deal.
Yeah, I was thinking about it from a like almost like how a pass rusher approaches a game. Even like talking to DeMarcus Ware over the years, he says that like during the beginning, like couple quarters, he'll try and do one move, and it's all to set up the tackle for a big play on maybe a big third down in the fourth quarter or something. And he does this, and then boom, when he needs it most, he goes to that big move. I think that that's what Drew Lock is learning, is that it's a long game and that you can set the defense up to be able to hit a big play like that. And how about the game from KJ Hamler? Just 2 catches, both for touchdowns. That's pretty efficient.
Yeah, his wide receiver rating, very good, I've heard, based on 2 catches, 2 touchdowns.
But
Phil, I would say one thing about Drew's game is that, it wasn't, sometimes you can have success that's manufactured in some ways by like what the defense is doing, a big play that, it's a screen that's taken for a bunch of yards. And while the first touchdown drive of the game for the Broncos was certainly aided by penalties, the rest of the game, Drew made those happen. He made that throw to KJ Hamler. The first one, there's a video on Twitter going around where you can see Drew kind of motion to KJ before the snap, indicating that he wanted to change the play to a go ball there, threw it perfectly. He made those plays happen. This, he didn't luck into these touchdown drives. Some of it's Pat Shurmur, of course, but Drew made the throws. He made the plays. And some of those dump off passes that you consider easy, maybe, they weren't simple. He was able to put the perfect amount of touch on it. I guess it would have been there. Let's see, in the first quarter, he gets decked near the own end zone, and he's able to dump it off to Nick Van Ette for a nice play. I'm not sure he makes that sort of play earlier in the season or last year.
Eric, I even hear it in his voice post game, the way he talks about what just took place in the game. It's a lot smarter. It's a lot more technical. Him talking about how he goes through the week working with Shula and Shurmur. It sounds a lot more football-y, where he's starting to pick up things. He's starting to pick up nuances. He's starting to understand how defenses are trying to play him. And you could tell that the game of football, he's just becoming a lot more comfortable out there. I think it's important not to overreact to just one game, but I do think that over the course of the year, you're starting to see a positive trend here with Drew. I thought it was really encouraging that he did not throw an interception. He never was tempted to really try and force too many balls. Like a lot of where he was going with the ball seemed smart. He spread the ball around. He got the ball to his tight ends a lot. There were some passes to the wide receivers, which we've been talking about. And when the opportunity was there, he hit the deep shot. And I think that that's just got to be super encouraging for Broncos fans, just to be able to say, look, he's been getting this coaching and now he's applying it to game day. He's getting the message. He even talked about his relationship with Brett Rippon and how the two of them have gotten much closer over the year and even last year. And Rippon is even telling him, hey, just be calm, let the game come to you. It's not within Drew's personality to do that. So for him to be able to go out there and actually execute doing those things is big to me. Eric, the question though is, was that enough to say, hey, look, I'm the guy here. Thanks for being patient with me this season. It's not gone the way we had all hoped, but now this is a sign of what you can expect moving forward.
Yeah, well, I kind of said going into this week, Phil, that even if he just kind of played so over the rest of the year, even if he did still struggle a little bit with interceptions, that he should still be the guy moving forward, just because he deserved one more offseason. You need that continuity. You can't just keep changing things for the sake of change, that the other options aren't any better necessarily, whether that's via trade or through the draft or free agency, and that Drew had shown enough, I thought. He's not overwhelmed necessarily. He's had just been making some poor decisions. I thought anyway that he had done enough to be the guy going into next year. Maybe you still, and this could still be the case, find a more veteran backup who could push Drew a little bit. And if things go south earlier in the year, you're not just kind of resigned to another tough season. But certainly yesterday, I think raises my hope for what he could be, because before yesterday, it had been a long time before he had a performance like that. He was impressive in the fourth quarter against the Chargers, but really had not put a whole game together. Even against the Texans last year, it was just the first half, really. The team was okay in the second half, and a lot of that was because they slowed things down. But the first half is when they played well. Yesterday was truly a four-quarter performance for the most part. Um, to me, that signifies that not only could he be, I kind of reached the point, Phil, where I was like, maybe the ceiling is an average type guy that you can win with, but is never going to be a guy that goes out there and wins you a game by himself. I'm not all of a sudden jumping to, hey, he's Aaron Rodgers, but I think he showed that he can win you a game. He can make those big plays and be a guy that is not just, on a good team able to carry you. He could actually be an asset, be a really good player, and turn, what is a decent roster into a playoff contender moving forward if he plays like that. So yeah, I think he deserves next year, and we'll see what happens over the next 3 weeks. Obviously, if he goes out and plays poorly against Buffalo, even though their defense is really good, there's going to be, an uproar again of, we need somebody else. We got to trade for this guy. We got to draft this guy. I think you just got to stick with Drew. And Phil, he's shown enough. Maybe he's not learning at the pace you would have wanted, or maybe it's taken a little bit longer than you expected. But he is, like you said, Phil, you can hear when he talks post game, you can hear that the development is happening. You can see it clicking on the field. I think slowly but surely he's making his way there.
I personally think that in the NFL for your team, there's nothing more exciting than when you have a young quarterback who is showing a lot of promise. Because not only do you feel like you're going to be good in the foreseeable future, but when he's a young guy, you feel like, okay, there's going to be some years of exciting football to be played. Yesterday, what Drew did made me feel like that again. It made me feel like the end of last year, where you were just so excited and you were like, gosh, this guy could really develop into a great quarterback in this league. We know that he's got all the physical tools. He can run around. He could do all the play action. He could do he could make all the throws that you need him to do. But the mental side of it had become a question mark this season. And it does feel like he's starting to get it. I don't think there's any kind of magic like poof, all of a sudden now you get it. I think he's worked his way through a lot of things here. And really, he's been playing despite the interceptions the last couple of weeks, besides yesterday, had been playing pretty well. Like that end of that Chargers game, the Dolphins game, they won that, missed the Saints game, played pretty well against the Chiefs. And then he played well yesterday. So you feel like he's starting to move in this direction where you feel like it's starting to happen. Of course, he has those games where it's like the Raiders game or the game against Atlanta. There's still things that defenses are going to do that maybe catch him off guard a little bit, or maybe he feels like he really wants to be aggressive that day. But for the most part, it seems like he's starting to get the mental side of it here, where if he can have a game like yesterday where he doesn't make the big mistake, then you can see that this team around him especially is talented enough to get big wins like this.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, and maybe it is as simple as it just clicked, is that he said on Sunday the reason he takes these deep shots, the reason he takes these chances, because he wants so badly to win and to play well for the city, for his teammates, for himself. He wants to perform well. And for whatever reason, for a while there, it was kind of like he thought the only way to do that is to take a deep shot down the field. It seemed like yesterday and going into this week, he realized, hey, I'm doing that. I'm performing well. I'm delivering for my team if I take the check down, if I take a short pass, if I throw it away when I need to, if I don't make a risky decision, because that's going to open things up later. But I think that is one thing that he said it takes quarterbacks a while to learn, at least for him. They think you win games, you prove yourself by going out and throwing 60-yard touchdowns. You prove yourself by taking care of the football, by winning games, by making plays, by keeping your team in games. That's what he did yesterday. And so maybe it is as easy as just saying, now that he's seen the blueprint for success, doesn't mean it's going to be a straight upward trajectory. I'm sure there's still going to be some bumps along the road here. But yesterday, Phil, was a great sign that maybe he's turned the corner. And who would have thought after Las Vegas a few weeks ago, because things looked really bleak there for a little bit, after the way he had played for most of the game against the Chargers, most of the game against the Falcons, and then throwing 4 picks against the Raiders, a team that, many people thought the Broncos were going to be better than this year and just got absolutely blown out. That was probably the low point. And so for him to be back up here after just a few weeks, I think speaks not only to his talent, but mental strength, mental fortitude, his ability to hang in there. It's been impressive.
Yeah, certainly confidence is there, like he can withstand some of those things. Even the fumble yesterday, it could have been easy for that to spiral, like, here we go again. I just made a huge mistake. What's that saying, Eric, though? You can't go broke if you keep making deposits. I think that is he might
making a profit.
I think the saying, though, is deposits, because if you keep depositing money in the bank, you're not going to go broke.
Well, what if you're spending more money than you're putting in the bank? I think
Don't do that.
You can't go broke making a profit, I think is the saying.
I like deposits, though. I guess he's making a profit every time he gets his 4 yards. Would you say that that's a profit?
Yeah.
Maybe that is
weird. We didn't see any weird gifts or like things making fun of Drew, where it was like Drew Lock after completing a 2-yard pass and it's like some guy dancing. We didn't see that this week.
That's true. That's true.
You could be like Drew Lock after completing a 50-yard tutty, and then it's that guy dancing.
The haters were quiet this week, huh?
They were tough weeks ahead, maybe, for the haters, especially after Vic Fangio's comment on Monday. I would say pretty good support of Drew Lock.
Here's what Fangio had to say about the future with Drew Lock, if he's officially committed to him moving forward. Here's what Vic had to say on Monday.
Well, I think everybody's always being evaluated each and every week. Obviously, we've committed a lot to Drew here. We want to see him keep improving, and we're hopeful and anticipating that he will.
So what'd you think about that, Eric? What was your read on that? That, hey, everybody's always being evaluated, but obviously we've invested a lot.
Yeah, I think the first part of that everybody's being evaluated, just kind of coach talk. And, like if Drew he's not going to be given anything. He's got to continue to earn it, I think is what that part means. But that he said they've got a lot invested in him, that's interesting to me, because in reality, you haven't really, just from like a second round draft pick is not that much of an investment. It's not like they traded up to number 1 overall to get him, the way that the Cardinals, for example, invested in Kyler Murray. The investment is more philosophical. It's that you drafted pieces around him. It's that you got a system that you think fits him. It's that you've continued to empower him and give him chances to prove himself. That to me is the commitment. And the fact that they've done all that, and then the way that Vic was speaking about it there, suggests to me, and obviously crazy things can happen, but to me that suggests Drew's going to be the guy next year as well.
Yeah, I would say that the Broncos actually have made a pretty big commitment, not in the sense like you mentioned, like trading up to get him, but in the sense that they're all in on him right now. They've put all their chips in his basket. Where they're saying, "Look, this is our guy." They've never once said, "Okay, we were thinking about benching him during a difficult outing." Never said that. They never said that. And they've gone out and they've built around him. That's a sign of investment in him. And, they've just said, look, this is our guy. We're going to play to his strengths. This is his football team. And we're going to ride or die with him. And this season, I think that you've seen that happen where he plays well, they play well. He plays poorly, they play poorly. That's probably true for most quarterbacks, but especially just the ups and downs of this season, I think have spoken to him being a young quarterback and this team being a young team. There's going to be those ups and downs. And look, they beat a Panthers team that had lost now 8 out of 9. I think they had lost 7 out of 8. So it's not like they beat a team like the Chiefs or something. I don't want to just get blown away. If he does it this week against the Bills, then I'll be like, oh, 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 oh. But it is encouraging. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think that the positive signs over the course of the season are there enough to, I agree with you, Eric, build around him, have this, consistency at that position, and eventually you're going to be rewarded when you keep putting that investment into him.
Right, and there's value in consistency. I think all I'm saying is that they're committed because they're choosing to be, not because there's any, like crazy contract in place or draft capital that's been spent. They're saying they're committed because they believe in him and they're moving forward with him, and because they've decided that he's their guy. Like you said, it's not because, like, if you draft a guy, even a guy like Paxton, who I know they moved on from after just a couple of years and didn't have many starts, but they had invested more in him. And
it's not like Carson Wentz with the Eagles, where they're tied with a huge contract. Exactly.
And financially, in that case, they're tied to him. Drew Lock makes a couple $1 million. I mean, if they wanted to move on from him or they wanted to make him the backup, it's no big deal.
Could easily do that.
Sure, he makes less than Jeff Driscoll. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly. I think it's like 6 or something. That's not an issue. So the commitment there is just because they've decided he's the guy, not because. And so to me, that's different. Like if Philly's talking about their options, they don't have much of a choice.
Yeah.
Or you talk about a guy like the Broncos are going to have to make a decision on a guy like Jawan James next year because he's still under contract. You might be committed to him because of the financial repercussions of not being committed to him. That's not the situation with Drew. They're choosing to do that because they believe in him, and to me, that's a significant difference.
Yeah, but your biggest asset is time. You can never get time back, Eric, and they've decided to give their time to Drew Lock.
That's true.
You can't get that back. Eric, let's move on here and talk a little bit about Pat Shurmur, the mastermind behind that offensive performance yesterday. We've certainly been harsh on some of the play calling this season, talking about why the ball didn't get spread around, why the tight ends haven't been featured as much. I'm really starting to think that maybe Coach Shurmur listens to the neutral zone.
Because I was even a little harsh yesterday after the win, Phil.
I know. It's in your DNA.
I asked Vic Fangio, why was Philip Lindsay in the game? I asked it a little bit more diplomatically, but was curious why Melvin Gordon was not in the game on that final drive near the goal line when you needed yards. But yes, Pat Shurmur adapted. I think it's not just about calling a game it's not about just calling a perfect game. It has to be a perfect game for Drew. It has to work with his skill set. And I think that some of it, again, you just mentioned time is your biggest resource, your biggest investment. And time is the biggest investment into Drew. I think just over the weeks, he started to learn what works, what doesn't work. Obviously, a strong rushing game works. It appeared yesterday like having some more screen passes in there worked. They weren't always effective. I mean, that ball that Drew threw to Jerry Jeudy on I think Jeudy took like a step back and it was kind of like supposed to be a rocket screen. And
skipped it in. Skipped it right in there.
That was a tough throw. So, but the play to Tim Patrick where Jeudy, there's another clip where you see the all 22 and 5 guys are flowing with Jeudy to the right side of the field and Tim Patrick is all alone. That scheme down by the goal line, the touchdown to Nick Van Nett, they had 3 tight ends on the field. They had an extra offensive lineman. Beck's in the backfield as a fullback. They're going heavy to try to make you think they're going to pound it in with Melvin Gordon. And then Van Nett's wide open in the end zone. I mean, those are good plays, but they only work, Phil, if the quarterback makes the right decision, if you stay ahead of the chains with the running game. And so it kind of goes hand in hand. It's not just play calling, and it's not just execution. There has to be a good combination for you to reach that type of offensive output. And So they got very close to the 35-point mark that you predicted they would get in every game this season.
That's true. But to be fair, I texted you before the game and I said the Broncos, in my opinion, were going to win. What did I say? 31-21 is what I said. That was my prediction.
That wasn't the
pretty
score,
close. That was pretty close.
I think it was 32-27.
I was 1 point off on the Broncos. That was pretty good. And I was 6 points off on the Panthers. So,
but I guessed 31-27. Did that not go through?
That must have, you want to call Verizon maybe and see what happened there.
Yeah. Huh.
That's sort of strange. But I do think, speaking to what you said there, that's why we have been saying over and over that consistency is so important. That when the quarterback and the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach sit down, they all have to be on the same page. And maybe it's taken some time here, especially with no off season, for them to get to a good point where I like this. I like this. What do you like in this situation? What if they're playing this defense? How do we want to react to these types of things? It's taken some time to maybe get into a comfortable spot here. The thing that impressed me the most, maybe, Eric, was, and we even talked about this on our pregame show, was that with the offensive line situation, finding out that Garrett Bowles was out right beforehand, knowing that Graham Glasgow wasn't going to be able to play, knowing that Elijah Wilkinson was coming back, knowing all of these things, you got a rookie center. The pass rush, other than the fumble, and Drew did take a couple of hits, but the pass rush didn't seem to impact the plays that they were calling. They were able to run the ball, and that's just a heck of a job by using scheme to keep the Panthers off balance, and then the guys who came in and replaced those starters.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, I think that if you don't run the ball as efficiently, maybe they're able to get the pass rush going a little bit. If Drew doesn't connect on some of those passes down the field and you're in third and longs, you don't have that sort of success. The Broncos were still not great on third down. I think they were like.
I did like, though, that they ran it that one time with Melvin Gordon. That keeps teams really off balance. That kind of is like, whoa, 3rd and 6, they can run the football.
Except if he would have been tackled short, you would have said, why are they calling a run play on 3rd and 6?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, you look like a genius when it works.
Yeah, no, I just think that Pat Shurmur talked at the beginning of the season, Phil, that in a normal offseason, you have all this time to just try things out that may work, may not work. You're not sure. And you run it, and if it works, great. You add it to your repertoire, and if it doesn't work, you move on. They didn't have that time this year to do that. And so I think what you're talking about in terms of them figuring out as the season goes along what works and what doesn't work, some of that is still – I get that it's week 14, and you'd hope a lot of that's done, but I do think that with a young quarterback, a young offense, young receivers, still relatively young backfield. I mean, Melvin Gordon's like the seasoned vet as a fifth-year guy, sixth-year guy. But yeah, I think they're still just working to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And you saw obviously yesterday that it did work, and maybe it doesn't work this week against the Bills. Maybe you're taking slow steps where you put up 30 plus on a bad team on the road, and then you are able to hang in there in the mid 20s against a good team. That's okay. That's progress. To me, as long as there are times, Phil, quite frankly, earlier this season, the past couple of years, Broncos would not have gone out and scored 32 against the Panthers in that game.
Yeah, and look, it helps when you have a guy like Hamler that can just turn on the jets and become wide open. That helps. It helps when you have a guy like Jerry Jeudy who's, commanding that much attention, and that just frees up Tim Patrick. He's got some playmakers around him, but they're young. And so they're still working, out some of the kinks. And I think that when you avoid the big miss, as they say in golf, if you avoid that, then you can see what the results are. And they had the one big fumble, and that ended up being a touchdown. But take that away, pretty good, solid performance by the Broncos offense. Here's what Vic Fangio had to say about Pat Shurmur on Monday.
Yeah, I thought Pat did a great job getting a feel for the game and making some really nice calls. The tight end screen, the Foom was a big play. The play action to Timmy Patrick was a big play. And obviously we had a couple big plays to KJ, and Jerry had one also and had a nice screen pass in there to Melvin. Yeah, I thought we had a really good mix there.
Eric, what'd you think about that? Not what he had to say about Shurmur, but the fact that he calls Tim Patrick Timmy Patrick.
You don't like that?
I do. No, I love it.
Oh, Timmy Toe Taps, I think, is another name for him.
Yeah.
He gets those toes down.
Toe taps, huh? He's a
Yeah.
dancer. Is that what?
Exactly.
Got it. I think we saw the toe tapping against the Chiefs.
He did. He said that was just an easy play.
What about the dancing, though? I'm more interested in that. The
I know
celebration.
you are. I know you are.
That's very concerning
The
to me.
backpack or the
Just in
the
general, some of the
dance?
move, all of it,
You
the whole
didn't like it.
package.
Got it.
I liked having fun with Drew, but the dance moves.
I'll let him know that you don't like it.
Maybe I can show him a couple of things. When all this
Put
quarantine,
that on YouTube. Yeah.
that's part of the problem. That must be part of the problem.
You're not there.
I'm not there to help.
Yeah. That's a bummer.
It is. It is because he's scoring all these touchdowns. I think that was his 6th touchdown of the season for Tim Patrick.
A lot of who would have guessed that, huh? Ahead of the year when we were projecting who was going to have yards and touchdowns and all that. Don't think either of us said 6 for Timmy P.
I'm pretty sure we were saying, is he going to make the team or Deshaun Hamilton?
They both
That's
made
what
the
we were-
team.
They both made the team, but one player is having
Deshaun Hamilton had a
better
catch.
season. He did have a catch.
Yeah.
It didn't end in the end zone, though.
Right. Well, you were upset, as our listeners of Neutral Zone Nation would know. You were upset that Noah Fant didn't get like 10 targets, even though he wasn't playing. You would have been like, just chuck one toward the locker room, Drew.
I would have appreciated
Get
it.
him involved.
I would have appreciated. There was a play early on where Fant was wide open. I think it was the third down, the first third down of the game.
Yeah, maybe his last
Wide
play.
open. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was wide open.
He was like, I'm done. And then did
That's
he
true.
go in it? Did he tweet
was-
or anything or no?
I don't think so.
He sent a tweet? No,
I don't
Okay.
think so. But
it.
since you brought
I don't
up
think
Noah
there'll be.
Fant,
I don't think there'll be much tweeting this week.
yeah, when you ball out, you don't have to tweet.
Exactly.
Yeah. But since you brought up Noah Fant, him and Garrett Bowles both flew back on Monday on a charter after staying behind due to the illness. So they don't believe that it's COVID,
No.
COVID related.
At
Maybe
least
some
one
food
reporter
poisoning.
believes it's a pizza, bad pizza.
Flu game, Michael Jordan.
I guess so.
Did he eat the whole pizza?
I don't know if we're talking about Michael Jordan. I don't know if we're talking about Garrett Bowles. I think Garrett Bowles could house a pizza.
Of course he could, although he is gluten free. So the crust would have
Maybe
to be.
that was the issue. Maybe he thought it was gluten free.
Garrett Bowles, widely known gluten free.
Widely known.
You don't think that's widely known? He is gluten free. I've seen it in the cafeteria. He has to get, like, when they make chicken tenders, the breading.
It's a
He can't
weird
eat
way
it.
to say that.
He can't
Bad
eat
food.
chicken tenders.
Chicken tenders. Yeah, chicken tenders. You put like an extra pause in there.
Chicken
Odd.
tenders.
Yeah.
That's how you say it. It's chicken tenders.
Okay.
I don't know how you say it in
I
the
think
South.
the emphasis goes on chicken tenders,
Chicken tenders.
not chicken tenders. There's a little bit of a difference.
Are you
Do
kidding
you
me
feel
right
like you're
now?
going insane?
Yeah. Are you kidding me? I don't know what they do down there in the South.
Yeah.
But
I was
what at Bojangles?
Bojangles.
Yeah, you're at Bojangles. Yeah. Not a sponsor,
No.
but if they want to be, that would
Well,
be
Bo Bear
strange.
Biscuit if they want to
That would be
get
strange.
involved.
Sponsoring a podcast
in Colorado.
from Colorado. Yeah. But really,
It's okay.
NZ
Neutral Zone
Nation.
Nation. Yeah.
Yeah. And Globe. We're global.
Phil, one more football thing I'll say.
Okay.
It's just that the complementary aspect of the Broncos team really it allows Pat Shurmur to call plays the way he does, allows Drew to play the way he does. If the defense were poor and Drew Lock were having to go out there and score touchdowns every time, or you're playing from behind for an entire game, I think some of the things you were able to do would not have been able to happen. And so the defense does deserve some credit there for they played tremendously in the first half. Carolina couldn't do anything on third down. I think their average third down distance that they needed in the first half was like 12 yards or something like that. Bridgewater was sacked 3 times. Because they played well, the Broncos could stick to their game plan. And we hear about that a lot, but I think maybe that's gone under the radar because the Broncos defense isn't number 1 in the league or number 2 in the league. They've still been really good and still been good enough despite all these injuries to keep them in these things.
I think Bridgewater was sacked 4 times.
3 in the first half, I think.
Oh, in the first half. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
listening comprehension.
Nuance.
Yeah, nuance.
We don't like that.
You call it nuance, I call it listening. It's all the same.
I'm always trying to catch you, but you never slip up.
That's true. No.
You never slip up. I agree. I do think the Panthers coming in were they had gone 3 and out the fewest amount of times in the NFL. And the Broncos did that a couple of times where that really helps create some of the momentum that the Broncos got on offense, where you drive down the field, you have a great drive, you score a touchdown, they go 3 and out, boom, you get the ball back. You get that ball rolling a little bit. And like you mentioned, that's complementary football, Eric. That's when it's rocking and rolling. This game, I tweeted it out yesterday. It's pretty fun when you're playing well, huh? It's fun.
It is.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Yeah, it can be fun. Kind of, it's nice to taste some of that again. It's a little bit of a taste.
Success.
Yeah. Eric, let's get to some voicemails here on the Neutral Zone. That's what everybody's been waiting for. They want to hear their own voice. They're like, let's just fast forward straight to when I talk, because that's how people think,
Right. They're like, Eric enjoys the sound of his own voice. Phil enjoys the sound of his own voice.
And I
Let's
also
hear
like
our own voices.
I like to also see myself too. That's why we're on YouTube now. So those are all some of
everybody look at my living room.
Exactly. Pretty nice Christmas tree, huh?
One of the best I've seen.
Eric, let's
What
get to
What
it.
do you got? That a 32-inch? What do you got there?
Are you talking about a TV?
Yeah.
That's a plasma screen. Yeah, I mounted it myself.
Doesn't look mounted.
Yeah. It's mounted. Yeah. You need some more space. You just put that bad boy away. Don't
Like
need
a
any
Michael
space.
Scott TV.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
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 Nice.
Good luck paying me back on your $0 a year salary, babe.
Not sure I'm comfortable with you calling me that.
Well, you're my everything. So, Eric, our first voicemail comes from Jeff Flanagan. He's been very excited. I think that he had, as he calls, a couple of hot cocos. I don't know what kind of hot cocoa he was having, but he was pretty fired up. Of course, he scheduled Victory Monday in our Google Calendar. Google, not a sponsor, but if they want to be. He called in a bunch of times. Okay. He called in pregame. We don't have that much time on the show. So let me just go to first up his halftime call in.
So things are looking good, but you know what? Act like we've been here before, right? It's kind of like you guys after, a good first half of the Neutral Zone show. You don't go out and celebrate because that's what you do every time. We're going to close this thing out, get a win. Looking forward to Victory Monday.
Eric, that's right. We act like we've been here all the time. Every show, consistency, beginning, middle, end. We don't celebrate at halftime.
Never.
Although Jeff already said that he was looking forward to Victory Monday, even though it was halftime.
Looking ahead. That's okay.
Yeah.
I like to do that. The schedule.
The Broncos were just up 6 points at halftime too, but he was feeling good. Jeff had, I think, a couple more hot cocos. Not sure what was in it. Had a few more hot cocos and called back post game.
I think we're off in the right direction, and I'm very happy to see Drew Lock play well, as well as the rest of the offense. I think we had a consistent game today. Melvin Gordon had another great showing. Wish we would have saw more from Philip Lindsay, just because he's a hometown favorite. But, I think it's just, part of that is a lack of opportunities. I think he's capable, and looking forward to seeing him, in the future. All right, looking forward to the show.
Eric, in case you were wondering, I did have to cut some of that down. The enthusiasm was there, though.
Yeah, I believe it.
It does seem like fans, no matter what happens, they're like, why didn't Philip Lindsay get the ball just a little bit more?
They do that. It's funny.
They do want
Melvin Gordon carried the ball 13 times, and Philip Lindsay carried the ball 11 times. Melvin Gordon was targeted and caught 3 passes. Philip Lindsay was targeted twice and caught 2 passes. Melvin Gordon had 90-ish yards, 91, I believe, total. Philip Lindsay had 26. I mean, I know people are convinced that Pat Shurmur is calling plays to sabotage Philip Lindsay. But right now, for whatever reason, Melvin Gordon is just more effective. And Philip Lindsay's got to figure out what's going on to get himself going. Because right now, like we said, or maybe like I said last week.
Please don't put words into my mouth.
Yeah, I won't. Melvin Gordon's got to be the lead guy right now, the way he's playing. And, if not for a shoulder injury, maybe late in the game, maybe Philip Lindsay or maybe Melvin Gordon gets a few more carries. But Melvin was efficient, I think, on the Broncos drive where KJ caught that long touchdown. I can't remember if it was a run or a little short dump off pass, but Melvin Gordon picked up a big first down that got them on the Panthers side of the field, and he broke like 4 or 5 tackles. I was a little worried about the ball security. It looked like it almost came out there, but he made plays again and again. And, Vic Fangio said Monday it's business as usual with him. Looks like he will probably play the rest of the season. He can build and kind of have a nice finish to the season here, but Philip Lindsay's got to get going because he just hasn't looked the same the last few games.
You're talking about Gordon not getting a suspension.
Correct. This year.
This year, yes, yeah. I do believe.
We still expect a suspension at some point.
Yeah, because I believe his court case got pushed back to January, so waiting to see more about that before handing down a suspension for football purposes here. So I agree, Eric. I mean, I think maybe Lindsay was in the game at the end there just because he's never fumbled. And at that point, maybe ball security was the biggest priority instead of trying to get a first down and just run out the clock, just because they were so backed up. And then Drew decided to throw it off Cushenberry's head and just have a little game, just make it interesting right there.
What would our conversation be like today, Phil, if that ball got caught by a Panthers player in the end zone?
Completely different.
And the Broncos lost that way. Drew still would have thrown 4 touchdowns. He still would have thrown for like 280 yards, but it would have all been about like hitting Lloyd in the back of the head.
Yes, that wouldn't be just what we were talking about on the neutral zone. That could be one of those career-defining plays.
Like a butt fumble.
Exactly. When you have a play that's so bizarre and it's showing on every program, it blows up the internet, it's hard to bounce back from something like that.
Yeah.
Hard to bounce back.
Bonehead hits Cushenberry in head. I mean, the column headlines, they write themselves.
Not so Cushion something, when it bounces off his helmet, something like that maybe.
Yeah, Broncos lose Cushion as Drew hits Lloyd in back of head.
Yeah, something like they Barry up for toss-up after plunking Cushion, something.
Yeah. Broncos lose Cushion, Barry sad. There we go.
And of all people that come down with it, it was Melvin Gordon,
Yeah, I know. How about that?
You're just like,
and he caught it in the end zone, too.
Yes.
I was like, get out of
there. Ended up running a little bit of time.
Could have just batted that down.
Yeah, exactly. But Melvin, much like Drew, always looking to make that extra big play, That's just part of their DNA. That's what they're made out of here.
It was frightening. That was frightening.
Interesting. We didn't really get into this a touch here, but the Panthers, they tried to rush up and they went for that third down play before the 2-minute warning, got themselves in a little bit of a bind where the clock never ended up really being a factor for them. They kind of rushed that third down play. And then on fourth down, we saw what happened.
Yeah. And Phil, Matt Rule said after the game, he did not want that to happen. And that Teddy Bridgewater took responsibility and said he was the one who made the decision to get up there and run a play. They were not on the same page.
Overruled.
Exactly.
No bridge over water. Overruled. Sustained. Objection. Let's go. Eric, that's how we do things here on the neutral zone. Let's get to our next caller, Brandon from Iowa. You might not recognize his voice because of the animation.
Was not expecting Drew Light to come out like that, but what a good time of the year to be throwing 4 touchdowns. And, man, I was a little sad we didn't get Jerry Jeudy more involved, but you know what? They are a team. They are not about individual accolades, as they say, and I thought that was really impressive. I was very glad to see the defense came out and played well. They got kind of ripped up there in the secondary in the second half there and kind of made it a close game. But we all know that Vic Fangio is a great caller, and he says, you know what, maybe sometimes they can have some quick throws, but we're going to buckle down and they're not going to score on us. So you know what, I was happy to get a dub. That's all we care about today. We're getting a dub. Let's go, baby.
Brandon from Iowa. My goodness.
Fired up.
That's the most animated I've ever heard him.
It was nice of him to send Judy's tweet for him this week.
Yes, exactly. Eric, you know, part of being a fan is you're happy about a win, but then you're also saying, how can we be even a little bit better? How can we just get a little bit better? Judy, 2 catches, 42 yards, had the big play where he had that double move. He was targeted 4 times, but Eric, 2 of those were pretty much uncatchable. So he caught everything that really came his way.
There's one that hit him in the hands that he dropped.
I don't think so. There was the one where he skipped it in, and then there was the one where he airmailed it.
There was another one, I think it might have been on the Broncos' first or second drive, where Drew hit him in the hands on a little comeback route, and he dropped it.
It says that he was targeted 4 times and has 2 catches. And I know for a fact that 2 of them were uncatchable. So
Well, I think one of those, a penalty was called, right, on the one that was over his head, so that doesn't officially count as a target. But I'll teach you more about football later if we have time.
can you do that? Is that okay?
I'll do my best. I don't know if I can for sure.
Justin Stranad is probably going to love that comment right there. Not Justin Stranad. That's a football. Who's the John Jornad? That's what I was thinking of.
Like, what are you talking about?
John Jornad. Justin Stranad, John Jornad. Very similar.
Yeah. I was like, got it. Okay. Yeah. On 1st and 10, their first drive of the second quarter, he threw it short left to Jerry Jeudy, hit him in the hands, dropped it.
Maybe he didn't want to catch that one.
Yeah. He was like, that's not the one I want. Throw me a deep one.
Yes. It's possible. When you're as talented as he is.
We got more
wonder.
voicemails?
Well, I was thinking, I wonder what Justin Stranad would actually think about that. So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it is a good question.
Sorry, John Jornad. And then let's wrap up our voicemails with a new caller here.
My name is Larry Skinner. I'm a young Broncos fan. I'm 16. I live in Lake Village, Arkansas, and I'm just absolutely relieved at the game that I saw with Carolina and Denver. What a great performance by Drew Lock. 4 touchdowns. I can't believe it. I'm just happy. If he keeps this up, then he could be our quarterback of the future, I hope.
Thank you for calling in from Arkansas there. Appreciate it. New caller here on the neutral zone. Broncos fans everywhere, Eric.
280 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Exactly. Just like sounded a little similar to Gary Kubiak. Although Kubiak, more of that Texas
That's true.
accent.
I'm
Arkansas.
close to being able to match that sort of incredible baritone.
Yeah. The accent, you got to talk like you got a little molasses. You know, you got a little molasses in there.
Yeah.
Just slow it down a little bit. You know, Arkansas.
Who is the sorry, I don't want to stop you there. Go ahead.
You know, Arkansas, that's where the great Steve Atwater went to college.
That's true. And the great McTelvin Agim.
Sosa? Yeah, you should see him do his pig suey. I've seen it.
Scary.
He gets into it.
Wow.
He gets into it.
Yeah.
Now,
I was going to say that Drew is the last first quarterback since Trevor Siemian to throw for 400 yards, or excuse me, 4 touchdowns and no interceptions in a game for the Broncos.
Huh. Trevor Siemian, huh?
Yeah. Friend of the pod.
He was playing so well, Trevor Siemian, until this bye week. I don't know what happened that bye week, Eric. But after that, things just went straight downhill for him.
People will never know.
Something maybe in Chicago. I don't know.
That's New York.
Were you there? I think you were there, and you did this feature on him, and
can't really talk about it.
It went straight.
It's time to wrap this thing up.
Eric, did we have any emails this week that we had to get to?
I think we got an email from Broncos Batman.
Oh yes,
it was just a photograph.
Yes, he did dress up. Maybe we'll share that on the Broncos Podcast Network, the Twitter handle there.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
He said, I assume a he based on the mustache I can see behind the Bronco Batman mask.
Yes.
Awesome win. Drew Lock took a big step forward. Am I taking this too far? Probably. Do I regret it? Never. Bronco Batman out.
Broncos Batman out. Of course, we've adopted his ending. So,
Of course.
I think that was we did get one email that was like inappropriate to read on the air.
Yeah.
Let's see. This was from Broncos Donna. Bronco Donna. Sorry. So we can't do that. But she says we can't read her actual email. And she says it was more of a rhetorical question anyway. But she did say, P.S. Your show is my everything when it comes to Bronco podcasts. So thank you very much, Bronco Donna.
Yeah. We'll read an email in the future if it's a little more kid friendly.
That's true.
Ben Swanson could not hear the content of that email.
No, especially not during the holidays.
No.
He would cry. He would have to get consoled.
Throw his crayons and pastels. It'd be a big mess.
Hopefully he wasn't working in watercolors that day. Otherwise.
Go right into a blue period.
It would be a mess everywhere. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for writing an email, leaving it for us to read, and also calling in and leaving a voicemail. If you want to be a part of the Neutral Zone, 707 Neutral. Eric, how do they leave an email?
They can leave an email at neutralzoneshow@gmail.com.
Yes. You just leave it there. We'll unwrap it and read it right here on the air. So you could also connect with us on Twitter at Eric Dalala with an A, at Phil Milani with a PH. Not traditional spelling, though.
Certainly not.
Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of the Neutral Zone. We talked about Drew Lock, what that performance against the Panthers means for him moving forward. We talked about Pat Shurmur, the way that he was able to call a masterful game, just really pulling strings and directing traffic and doing a great job there. And then, of course, we got to our voicemails and emails. We'll be back a little bit later this week to break down all things Broncos versus Bills. That game on a Saturday. So if you're making your plans for the weekend, don't make plans for Saturday. Just don't do it.
No, you go straight from the B1G championship into Broncos Bills.
Who's in that B1G championship? Indiana?
No, Phil, you have to win a certain amount of games, I think, or you have to be good and just have them let you in. It's a little confusing how the qualification works, but I think it's Ohio State versus Northwestern.
Northwestern, huh?
Yeah. And CU's in the Pac-12 championship, right?
No, they're not. In fact, their schedule got a little bit screwy this
confusing.
week. Yeah, it's very confusing what's happening. They were supposed to play Oregon in some sort of backup game, but now Oregon got moved up to the Pac-12 championship. I don't really know what's going on, and that's the way we in the Pac-12 like to do with things.
Exactly. Just as confusing as possible.
Yeah. I think the referees in the Pac-12 probably made these decisions because that's.
Ooh, wow, another shot at the refs. You were doing that yesterday on Twitter.
That shot on Drew Lock is the purpose for those new quarterback rules. What would we be talking about today if Drew had hurt his knee?
Well,
on that play,
did the ball still go off Cushenberry's head or no?
Yes, but he got up. He got up. He walked to the sideline gingerly, and I had bad visions in my head, and I was like, "What was that rule? That's the Brady rule, where you dive at the legs in the pocket. That's what that rule is there for." So
I agree with you.
I get that the point in the game, you make a call like that, it's going to directly impact the outcome, but a call is a call, Eric.
That only happens when Von Miller accidentally touches Mitchell Trubisky's face after
Bradley Chubb too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Vaughn was Gardner Minshew, right? And Bradley Chubb was Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
Yeah. That only happens in that case.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Enough of that. So no plans for Saturday. B1G right into some Broncos and Bills. Have the Cats scored 4 touchdowns this whole season or no?
Combined?
Yeah, combined. Yeah.
Oh, not quite.
Yeah. they play a different kind of football in the Big Ten. Although it seems like Ohio State plays much better than the rest of the conference. I don't know.
All right, it's time to
sort of
wrap this
strange.
up.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back later this week on Thursday morning, breaking down Broncos and Bills. Until then, for Eric Dalala, I'm Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.
This is Bronco Batman, and you're listening to The Neutral Zone.